Hello, welcome to the show that you all know you want but you don't necessarily need. Welcome to TotalMarkOut. My name is the Geek King, the Cash Brew. A load of other nicknames as well, but we're not going to go over that right now. Of course, with me as always is my partner in crime, my brother in arms, the Shawn Michaels to my Triple H. It is, of course, Stevie Boss, Steve John 313. Say hello, boss.
Sup?
And as you may have noticed with the title of the video, that we are here today to talk about our 5 favourite storylines ever. Now, these are personal favourites, not what we say are the greatest or built the most or got the best pay-per-view buys or 5-star matches or anything like that.
Yeah, these are not objective lists. They are subjective. They are our personal choices.
Granted, though, if, I've said that this is my favourite storyline of all time, it is also the greatest storyline of all time. It's just that, it's that simple. Because I'm not some steroid fucking freak in my basement in California typing away about 5-star matches in Japan when the same quality of match could happen in the CWC and it would get a shit on. I'm the Geek King, the Cash Brew. You can take my opinion as fact. However,
yeah,
we also are going to talk about our 5 least favourite, or what we've put here is the 5 worst storylines, in our opinion, that ever made air on any TV show, on any network, or in anywhere there is. So with that being said...
yeah, just to basically make aware, we're not talking about what do we think, looking at everything are the worst. These are just ones that we have watched and we're like, we fucking personally just hate them, or whatever. So, for example, with my lists, I've not included anything that I wasn't there for, like, that I found out retroactively. These are all ones that I have watched myself, and at some point I just went, this is the drizzling shits. Fuck this storyline. So don't be surprised if some of my worst storylines are on your top 5 favorites, people. Because that is the contrarian I am, not by design, purely by nature.
Yeah, and I will say as well that none of mine I was there for watching live, or if I was, I was very young when I did so. However, I can watch stuff retroactively with a complete blank slate and really get into things. And as a matter of fact, Boss can do that as well. We saw that on the most recent episode of It's Got Bicycle.
It's fucking bullshit and you know it. That was...
Boss.
I know, okay.
Otherwise I'll have another clip there.
No, not even a bit. I still get angry.
Yes.
When I think about that match. If you don't know what we're talking about, you'll have to check it out yourself.
Probably up above there if I've remembered whereabouts in the video he said it.
Somewhere.
But, we'll work that one out later. So that, as I said, with that one being said, the 5 worst storylines in our opinion, however, to start us off, we both have a dishonourable mention. One that didn't make the top 5, but did, for whatever reason to ourselves, deserve to be talked about. Boss.
Okay, I'm going to get mine out the real quick. My dishonorable mention is Kane, May 19th. One reason for this is simply because May 19th is a bad date for me. Really stings, so to hear it fucking every week repeated over and over and over again didn't do my psyche any good. And plus, it was just a shit storyline. So yeah, that's my dishonorable mention. Enough said.
Yeah, there wasn't a great payoff for that either. There wasn't a great payoff for that, and obviously for personal reasons, you have an affliction, something that just doesn't work well for you, and obviously it doesn't help either that, with the way that wrestling fandom works, certain dates happen every single year, so every year something is mentioned again and again and again. There can be good things about that. Recently, we just had 316. I'm not even American, but I celebrate 316. March 16th every year. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
God damn, son, the hell of a beard you got. My dishonorable mention, literally just didn't make it to number 5. That's how dishonorable my mention is. It's the big boss man. It's the big show. It's 1999.
Yeah.
And it's
okay.
It's not even that, I can get behind the Big Show jumping on the casket and all that. 'Cause that's hilarious to me with the Blues Brother fucking horn on the car and all that. Boss Man showing how much of a prick he was. What just makes it dishonorable for me was the card he read on TV that ended up with, "I'm really sorry, your daddy finally croaked." I was just
God.
You can't do this. You just said this man had fucking prostate cancer or something.
Jesus Christ.
What also really hurt it was that it was during the time when they made Big Show the champion, the WWF champion, and so Boss Man is feuding with him. Therefore, he becomes champion as a surprise because Stone Cold Steve Austin, we had to run that motherfucker over. And
of course we did.
You go for all of this, and what happens? Boss Man's now the number one contender just because that storyline was it? It's really? Big Boss Man's first run and his only real championship defense is at Armageddon versus Boss Man. And then he loses it on TV before New Year. Bear in mind, he won it in November. Loses it on TV just before the New Year to Triple H, and you're like, this was literally a placeholder, so we didn't just give Triple H the fucking belt. There's so many things that just make it not a good storyline.
Yeah, it's pretty, it's like, I get how there are going to be some people who are like, how the hell could this be on the worst? It's one of the best. It's I get this is going to be some people's cup of tea, but fuck me, I think y'all are in a minority on that one.
So with that being said, boss, we've done our dishonorable mentions. We've had our own personal reasons behind them. What's the number 5 on your list? What's your the 5th one on there?
Okay. Number 5 on my Steve John C13, Stevie Bosses, the Reverend of Professional Wrestling's least favorite storylines. John Cena, Eve Torres, Zack Ryder, the love triangle of 2012. Oh my fucking God.
Hey,
everything about this was just terrible. Everything. There was not a single redeeming thing in this entire storyline. There is nothing of enjoyment. No, there was nothing.
If I remember right, this was during the whole Eve Torres kind of looking like Lisa Ann period of time. And I mean, I'm not against that. Plus, there was the Rock song. Boss, you can't do that. Boss, you can't do that because my computer's been playing up recently, and I can't tell if it's fucking freezing or if it's just you being you.
What you should always assume I'm glaring at you disapprovingly.
Listen. We got a rock song that had a great line about Eve Torres. Eve Torres was fit, still is fit, and on top of that as well, Zack Ryder got a push. It was off the stage, but he got a push.
Everything about the storyline was fucking terrible. It made very little in the way of the whole
none of it.
It just didn't work. It didn't work. It was a waste of time. It was a bad story to even fucking tell in the first place. It was just bad, and of course, hey, someone has a love interest, call Kane. Because fucking Kane's gotta like the person now, and that's fucking...
But that's not even what they did, though, was it? The thing with Kane was he was supposed to... It was the embrace the hate period of time, where he was telling Cena to turn heat, embrace the hate, the hate. And what happens instead? John Cena's like, I'm just gonna kiss this kid. I didn't kiss her, she kissed me, excuse.
What a horseshit excuse.
And then he's like, right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to beat the crap out of your best mate. And he's like, well, he's kind of a mate. He's not really my best mate. He's kind of a mate. I know
Yeah.
him. I always say hello and that, but I wouldn't say we're best mates. Yeah, no, it didn't go anywhere. John Cena was never going to embrace the hate. It was a great way to bring Kane's mask back, but that was basically it. And as I said, Zack Ryder got pushed straight off the stage, straight off the fucking ramp in the back as well. And that was about the best part of it until, The Rock mentions it, pulling on a weave. I'm guessing if we got a wife.
Yeah, I mean, again, just all of it was the drizzling shit.
Yeah,
all of it. I hated it. I hated it so much.
I think I can top you, though.
Well, you probably could, but bearing in mind, this is just my number 5.
Oh, yeah, I think my number 5 kind of beats your number 5.
Yes. Okay, let's go for it.
It's Al Snow needs more pepper. At number 5, I have the Al Snow, Big Boss Man, Pepper the Dog feud, where Boss Man...
We've now had 2 mentions of Boss Man.
Hey, listen, I love the Big Boss Man. He's one of my favourites of all time. But
yes,
he had some shit in 99. This was the same year, by the way, as he did the whole feud with Big Show. I think Big Show was actually his next target. Like, here's the thing. It's Boss Man abducts this little chihuahua called Pepper.
Yes.
And then, while they have on TV, it was thrown a dog crate was thrown at Al Snow or something like that, and they were saying the dog was inside it. And then they came back on TV and said, listen, we've learned that Pepper the dog wasn't in there because, not human rights, but animal rights.
Yeah.
And they were worried about fucking Peter coming after them, even though Peter's a fucking scam. But
yes.
Then they go one step further where they don't acknowledge that the dog hasn't been harmed in any way by feeding Pepper the dog to Al Snow by saying that he served him some pepper steak. And then this leads to the worst match on a WWE pay-per-view ever. The Kennel from Hell match.
Oh, God, yeah.
The dogs weren't interested in actually having, biting them or anything like that. They were more interested in shitting and pissing and humping each other.
Which, of course they would.
Yeah.
Like, dear God.
You talk about there being no redeeming features on your one? There's no redeeming features on this. And more importantly, you want to talk about drizzling shit?
Okay, yeah. From the figurative to the literal, fair enough. Very fucking enough.
Boss number 4.
Well,
I don't think there's much more we can say about that.
No. Okay. Are we doing the worst and then the favourite?
No, just the worst. We'll
all right. Okay.
We'll try and keep our happy stuff until the end.
Okay. I have a really fucking itchy left eye, so I apologise for the constant rubbing.
It's alright. It doesn't look like you're crying.
I will be as I go through this list. Number 4, Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler, 2010-2011.
Yeah.
This did not need to happen. There was no reason for this to happen. And some people, I hear them now. I hear them in the echoes of the viewers saying, but we wanted to give Lawler his WrestleMania moment. Yeah, look what that WrestleMania moment was. It was a DQ victory to Michael Cole.
Well, didn't they reverse it?
Well, yeah, essentially that's what it was. It was
Cole got the DQ, didn't he? Yeah.
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 So, because Austin originally counted it, and then the anonymous Raw general manager Hornswoggle, may he ever fucking stay the fuck away from professional wrestling.
I like Dylan. Leave Dylan alone.
Nice guy, hate him in any wrestling capacity. He basically went, nope, reverse that, Cole wins. And I'm like, so thanks for wasting my life there. That was a period of my life I'll never get back. And what's more, I had to watch these two fuckwits in a ring when none of them should be in a ring. And at least one of them should be far away from the commentary table. And I'm not talking about the guy from New York or Texas. Yeah,
I mean, there's also the fact that it happened 2 more times.
Oh God, don't remind me.
It happened at Extreme Rules where they had a whipping match and then they had an I Quit match. I think at the next pay per view, and then on top of that, like at one point, I believe they beat down wasn't there a Kiss My Foot match?
There was a Kiss My Foot match, and they had like the barbecue sauce
all over the foot because it was JR's barbecue sauce. It was just nasty, and like the only redeemable feature was that sometimes you got a little bit of a laugh, and that was a little bit of a laugh from like Stone Cold doing something, or fucking like Jack Swagger teaching him to do the fucking entrance, and that was like the only redeemable bit of that I can think of. I mean, because like you said, the payoff was not good enough. I didn't mind Michael Cole being a heel. I mean, it's hard to listen to now. Trust me, I've gone back and watched some of it. It's really fucking rough. Yeah. Because he was just a Miz fan. I was like, well, that's fine. I don't know why we needed a payoff for that.
Yeah, and that was the thing. It's just, it didn't... I just don't get why it was needed. Like, none of it made sense. It's like... And the problem is, it's not that nobody wanted to see, because obviously there are people who wanted to see that, you know, and I don't begrudge them that. But really, there were better options on the table for what they could have been. Like, even if you want to give Jerry his WrestleMania moment, I say, fine, give him his WrestleMania moment, but give him an actual one. Like, I know, have him win the IC title. If you're willing to give if you're willing to give Bret Hart the US title for all of a week, then you could do the same with the IC, and we'll all forgive it and move the fuck on. You know,
I mean, let him win the Andre maybe, but like, I don't give him the IC.
Honestly, I would rather him have the IC than the Andre.
Fair play.
I'd rather, you know.
I think if he give Jerry the Andre, it does become such it cements it, doesn't it, as a jobber battle royal. Like at the moment, there's not been many of that. I mean, if you look at the history, Mojo's the only real jobber out of a lot of them. Yeah,
you know, I'm just saying, like at this stage, it should be a case of, you know, it shouldn't have been Cole.
Yeah.
It just shouldn't have been. Like, even if it had been like, you know, something as whatever, just like, I'm going to retire you. And King being like, well, I tell you what, you think you can retire me? If you could beat me at Mania, I'll fuck off.
Yeah.
And then you have Jerry win, and you're like, okay then. Because we all think it's going to be a retirement thing.
Yeah.
And then Jerry Lawler gets the win. Yeah. And then the guy who lost that match is going to have to be the guy that got his ass whooped by Jerry Lawler. And if you think, well, that'll make him immediately a jobber. No, because if you got someone like, you know, obviously he wasn't around at the time, but there are people who could work an angle like that, like Baron Corbin.
Yeah.
Baron Corbin is the guy who could, if he was around that time, would be able to make a gimmick out of that.
Baron Corbin is one of those guys that can just get his heat back with a look. Like, you can defeat Baron Corbin in the most humiliating fashion. The next night on Raw, he comes out and just does two things, and he's got his heat back. He's an old school heel because he doesn't care if he legitimately doesn't give a fuck if you like him or not.
Exactly.
Which is great. However,
what about your number 4?
Yeah. It can be explained in this way. It's kind of an extended one, mine. The New Blood or the Russo Reset, depending on how you look at it. We're going to go down to Atlanta, and we're going to go to old WCW wrestling. And we're going to see that Vince Russo is the genius that he said he was all along. He's going to be the man to take WCW and put it back in the prominent light. And the way we're going to do that is on the first night, we're going to vacate all the championships. Okay. And then what we're going to do is me and Bischoff are then we're going to put ourselves together and create the New Blood stable, which will be all the young guys, and Jeff Jarrett, and Shane Douglas. And we're going to make them the main event talent. We're going to push them against the Millionaires Club, which will be all the older veterans, like Terry Bollea. That's right, guys. That's right. You took the most recognizable name, or at least one of the top 3 most recognizable names in professional wrestling, and went, nah, call yourself by your real name. But I'm Hulk Hogan. No, you're Terry Bollea. But Hulk Hogan? No, Terry. But Hogan, Bollea. And then what you're going to do is have Terry Bollea, aka Hulkster, feud with Billy Kidman? Listen, I'm a Billy Kidman guy. I like Billy Kidman. He's a hell of a talent, always has been. And these days, he doesn't look like the thing that ate Billy Kidman. But there is not a pay-per-view match on the earth. There is no way you can sell me Hulk Hogan, not as Hulk Hogan though, guy who comes out in his jeans, a cut-off work shirt that says on the back of it, FUNB, FU New Blood, and have him face off against someone that for the last 5 years you have been building up as a cruiserweight. Never more than that. Maybe the best cruiserweight, but still a cruiserweight. No, I'm sorry, but the whole thing failed to me within a couple of weeks, if not the day of. It didn't work. Russo basically exposed himself, figuratively rather than literally, thankfully, as the inept creative genius that he said he was. Yes, there were moments where Russo has had some great ideas, and lots of wrestlers will say that. However,
yeah,
without someone to filter that for you, you're just throwing shit at a wall and hoping it sticks. I like the idea of vacating titles and seeing where it goes. On paper, that looks great. But what it tells your audience when you come in and vacate them is literally everything you've watched before this doesn't matter. The investment you've made is pointless because this is a whole new thing and nothing that we've done previously matters. No one cares. And it just reeks of someone going, I don't like what you've done, so I'm just going to control, delete, and we'll restart this.
Yeah, vacating a championship is... It's an art in of itself, in the sense that you've got to make sure that vacating it is the right option. That's why you get a lot of situations where champions don't vacate. Instead, they'll have an interim champion instead, and then they'll have the blowout, when the guy comes back.
Yeah.
Vacating in the sense of we're going to do a restart. It's like, Vince, you're not playing a new game in TEW.
Yeah.
You can't just fucking reset everything. Like, and if they were like so gung-ho on that, and because there is a way that there's probably a few ways you could make it work, but I think at that stage, unless you're changing the name of the titles in some respect, or changing what they stand for, you run a big risk. And unfortunately, they did run that risk, and it didn't pay off.
Yeah. I mean, this is a period of time. It wasn't... Well, to be fair, you can argue... Some people argue. In 1998, at the King of the Ring, something happened that changed the game. Mick Foley flew... and he was broken in half. That happened. And apparently, which has been said by not just the man himself, but also by other people, Kevin Sullivan went into the creative room the next day and said, they've just won the competition. The war's over. Because he saw that and went, what can you do to compete with that level of dedication, of that level of risk? He goes, doing anything else that will try and top that is paramount to something tragic happening.
Yeah. And
a lot of people say, yeah, that's the case. And by 99, Bischoff was kind of getting pulled from creative as well, and that's why they brought Russo in. And honestly,
yeah,
the company by this point when Russo came in, what it was literally Russo's going to come in, he's going to lift everything up, and he just didn't. The creative at that point was just the
No.
dogs. It was just the bollocks, mate. It was it was hard to watch, and I was grateful after a while that I couldn't watch it anymore.
Yeah.
But with that being said,
was-
like, you know, so that's one of those things. You know, you can do certain things, a reset, or you can do the New Blood storyline and the Millionaires Club, but to change so much that you've invested in for so long, it just, I can imagine that those fans that were, especially those fans that were still going to shows, felt like, what was the point of me being a fan for the last 18 years or something, you know?
Yeah. You know, and again, they just couldn't get out of the gang warfare mindset. It had to be this group versus that group. Like, they couldn't get out of that one-trick pony.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's fine
I'm
if you're in
somewhat like that
Japan,
anyway, you know?
where you can. Yeah, but it's fine when you're in Japan and you can make that work by not just because you have one team, but you have different teams, and you can make it work and even have something that lasts as fucking long as Bullet Club.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, look at Chaos. You know,
Oh, yeah, Chaos,
I
exactly.
mean,
Evil
Bullet
and
Club,
stuff like
Chaos, Suzuki-gun,
Yeah.
Suzuki, you got Taguchi Japan, you know, you got,
Yeah.
and even before that though, you had like Team 2000, which were kind of the aftermath of the NDO Japan, you know, you had Ishigun, you know, you had a load of these teams like in groups and that, because it became after a while integral, you know, and even now they got
Yes.
Team Honmei, which is the home team, you know, it's Team New Japan. You now got the United Empire, you know, with Will Ospreay and Jeff Cobb and the Great O'Khan, who the two out of those three, I'm really, really starting to like their work. But I've been a big fan of Jeff Cobb for a while. Great O'Khan is becoming a fucking overnight success. But yeah, as you say, you can do that if it becomes integral. Where of course I'm going to go sign with a certain team. You know, in the '80s in in the WWE, it was. They did big storylines about which manager is going to get up certain talent. You know, the one that comes to my mind is, well, two examples that come to my mind is one that happened with Moch, when Macho Man debuted. It was which manager is going to be here. And you see all the managers whining and dining him. You know, Bobby Heenan, Luscious Johnny V, Classy Freddie Blassie, and I think Mr. Fuji and Jimmy Hart were there as well. And then he chooses Elizabeth because it was a different dichotomy. And then it happened in the babyface side of, well, not the babyface, but it happened in the babyface return of Andre the Giant, where all the heel managers were still trying to get him in the contract, and that's when, you know, he chose none of them and he became a babyface again.
Yeah.
You know, and that was one of those things that I remember, like, but to just reset it and then, like, and just the audacity to call it the New Blood and have Shane Douglas, who's been wrestling since 1985, and Jeff Jarrett, who debuted in '93. Like, come on, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah.
All right, boss. Your number 3 storyline.
Number 3 of my top 5 worst storylines. I have my least liked storylines here. Number 3, Hulk Hogan et al. Immortal, 2010 TNA. Talk about potential wasted and just, again, being stuck in one-trick pony mindset.
Yeah.
This actually follows beautifully from Geek's Last Choice here, because, again, in TNA, you had Immortal, which was a group of loyal followers to both Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan in the form of Abyss and Jeff Jarrett. And then you have Fortune join, led by Ric Flair, which also included AJ Styles.
I think it was AJ Styles, Chris Daniels, Bobby Roode, James Storm, Frankie Kazarian. Yep. And at some point, Desmond Wolfe and Matt Morgan, I want to say.
I think that was afterwards.
No, I'm sure Desmond. I think Desmond came into the group. I'm trying to think if Morgan was in it.
It was definitely afterwards, because I've actually been watching in researching this, like trying to get the data. I watched the formation of it, which led to the great line of Ric Flair saying, "I'm going to wake up every day loving you more than anything else, Hulk Hogan." And it's just like, Rick, do you look? Call Triple H. Maybe
he wanted out of that company so much at that point in time. You could tell. Like, I honestly don't think Rick went into that went into that company knowing the shit he was going to have to put up with. Like, I loved the idea of Nate as the JJ Dillon of Fortune. Like, that was really a lot of fun. That had so much potential. But I think Rick just went there going, like, this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah, the only thing as bad as a terrible storyline is a terrible storyline that could have been good.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest thing. Now with Immortal, it just became the same bullshit over and over again. It was the same thing of, in-group betrayals and fucking stacking the deck and, will Jeff Hardy lose the world title to the good guys, or will Immortal protect him? Will he actually make it to a pay-per-view sober? All these fucking things. And here's the thing. Yeah, it could
we've got a froze there.
Have been interesting, but again, I apologize.
No, it's just a screen freeze. And that's
basically, it just felt like that. That point of TNA was really a deep, the deep kind of questions of, are we just watching WCW again? Like, is that what's happening?
And the whole idea is backstage as well. Of we're going to go live on Monday, and then they went live every other week on Monday, and you're like, this doesn't work. Because I remember, like, at the time, them going, I think our former co-host on TMO, Eric Van Gisme, he was one of those ones that he had a live feed for both. I don't know how he got the TNA one because we couldn't actually get it live over here at the time. But I just remember he had a live feed for both, so he was watching them both at the same time, and he goes, "Oh, it's so good! It's like the old days." I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't want the old days." Like, no. I don't want to watch TNA like on a Monday night because I know the show won't be as good. Like, and I'm not saying the 2010 Raw was great. Like,
I mean, I look at the first TNA event, which was the Gauntlet for the Gold, which eventually saw Ken Shamrock becoming the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And I'm like, okay, wasn't the best show on the planet, but it was a strong opening for what TNA were hoping to do. Minus the fact that they brought in Ed Ferrara for commentary, but never the fuck mind. But then to see where they ended up, it's just like you fucked it up royally, and it's like
it was legitimately a roller coaster. Now. Like, it was legitimately a roller coaster because it went up and up and up, and you hit that high point where you're like, this is better. This is a better show. This is a great, like, weekly. This was a better show. The in-ring was better. The storyline was better. The promos were better. Everything was going really well. And then, I would say about 6 months after the Immortal storyline started, you saw the crash down. It was just, like, and the irony being is that, to me, some of the better. I mean, you brought up there, obviously this is one of your third least favorite, or in your opinion, the third worst storyline that you've seen. To me, 6 months to a year later, I haven't got on any of my lists. But when someone says to me, well, because I've got a TNA on either one of my lists, goes, can you name me a TNA storyline? The only one I can really mention that I enjoyed is Aces and Eights.
Which is a fantastic storyline, and it really catapulted Bully Ray as a main event player.
But the problem was, by the time that we got to the Aces and Eights reveal, by the time we got the Aces and Eights being a featured part of the show, and yes, it included the Brooke Hogan and Hulk Hogan and all that, and I could have done without some of that, but it made sense in the overall storyline. TV over here was fucking ridiculously hard to find. To find TNA on TV in the UK, not like, you had to go searching for it. I mean, right now you have to as well. Impact, you have to, and to help you guys out, it's on. I believe it's on 5-star or something like that. At 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock on a Saturday night.
Back then, it was on Challenge TV, but on the most bizarre of times.
It's like 3 a.m. it was like the ECW time, and it was like graveyard shift on a Tuesday.
But the Immortal thing just pissed me off. I can imagine. And that's the difference. Like, out of all these storylines, this was, apart from my number one, this was the only one on my list that pissed me off. Because it was just the potential
Yeah.
was so fucking wasted. It was unreal. And that is why it's on my number 3.
Yeah, and I want to say as well with that is that it pissed me off for a different reason completely. It pissed me off because I remember watching the next day, watching the Bound for Glory of the reveal. Because it was 10-10-10. And Abyss has been going on. They're coming. I was like, oh, cool, we're going to get a group that's going to be centered around Abyss as this monster. Like, it's going to be really cool. And then it was Jeff Hardy turns heel and Bischoff and Hogan are heels. And I was like, great. Like, this isn't 1996 where we've never seen Hulk Hogan heel on national TV. For crying out loud, I've seen Hulk Hogan heel for majority of my actual wrestling watching. Like,
yeah.
And honestly, it may be that I'm just not a Hulkster. I'm not a Hulkamaniac. That was like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
That was just it. But very good number 3, boss. Very good number 3.
Thank you.
My one is we're going to Raw's War era. We're going to 1998, and for Boss, we'll get this straight away when I say it. I will explain it a little bit longer. And it was simply summed up as, well!
Yeah.
Road Warrior Hawk's demons being put on public display. It was in bad taste. It was badly judged. And the whole thing just didn't get over.
No.
Because the crowd didn't know what they were saying because they're not plugged into commentary. So all they're thinking they're seeing is bloopers and stunts and things going wrong. It just wasn't good, you know. Especially when you have a man who has got demons, has well-known demons of alcoholism and drug abuse, and you put that onto display as he's impaired and Hawk looks as if he's imbibed in a bit too much and stuff like that. It just doesn't sit well now. It just didn't sit well then. Quite frankly, it could have been my number 1. But it came to me as, you know, number 3 seemed to fit well because, quite frankly, because when you look at it objectively, the actual spots that they did were well done. The man was. You could see that the man was impaired. You could see that things like that. It was just not in the best of judgment, as I said, or in any good taste at all.
No, 100% agree with you. And again, the reason why you won't find certain things on my list is because, for me, it's not a rule of the lists, but I stuck to storylines that I was watching as they were happening.
Unfortunately, this was one that I was watching at the time.
Yeah, if I'd been watching that at the time, it would have definitely been on my list.
Yeah.
It would have been probably number 2 on my list, out of all the ones that I have. Yeah, just absolutely despicable.
Like I say, if you look at it, it's done well, but that doesn't mean that it's good.
Exactly. Some things could be good, but shouldn't be done.
Like the Killing Joke. I remember watching the Killing Joke in theatre. You know, Mark Hamill coming back and, you know, being the Joker for another time, and he said he's pretty much done with it, and watching all the build-up, and it would be, you know, the old voices from the animated series, and it was a one-off experience in the cinema, and literally finished work at 6 o'clock that afternoon. The film started at 6:30, so I get from work, jump over the river into Gateshead, and didn't get any popcorn or anything like that because the film started as we were in queue for popcorn, and I was like, nah, fuck it, we're going straight in. Like, and remember coming out, because anyone who knows a Killing Joke knows it's one of the most effective uses of making a reader, and in this case a viewer as well, uncomfortable. It's almost Hitchcockian in the way that it makes you feel like really disgusting and bad, and you're like, oh my god, like what is this? Why am I watching this? But you need to see the ending. You have to get to the ending so that you can settle in your mind. But remember, anyone who knows the Killing Joke also knows the triggers that it might have and stuff like that. And and I remember coming out of it, and we was on the way back to the car to go Yemen. And honestly, dude, like we all kind of went, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah. And we all went, it was well done. And I was like, and went, yeah, but I don't think we can say it was good
Yeah.
because of the way it made you feel. And I was like, I'm probably not going to watch it again. I mean, I own the Blu-ray because I'm a collector, so I obviously, I own the animated collection. And I was just like, I don't think I'm ever going to willingly put that on. It may be on at 2 in the morning when I'm pissed, and I thought, fuck it, I'll just put the fucking superhero channel on or whatever else, But I don't think I'll go on my way to watch it, and that's what it is with the Road Warriors case. I don't ever feel I'm going to go and watch that period of time. It just happens that I'm watching that period of time of wrestling, and it comes on my screen.
Yeah.
So, boss, number 2.
So this one's going into a more lighthearted area.
Okay.
And just one that I
We need
hate.
that.
This is like the reason why this is. Before I get into it, is I'm not saying that I'm not saying it was necessarily terrible at an objective level. I just can't say anything good about it. Vince McMahon and Hornswoggle, The Illegitimate Son, 2007.
I mean, I've got 2 things to say that I can say good about that.
Which are?
Sorry. You have been freezing for a moment, so I was wondering in that case.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one, I liked the actual way that it was revealed. I thought that was a fun segment. Don't think the storyline was overall good. I'm telling you that. But I thought this actual reveal was fun when he gets down to Triple H and they're both going, you know what this means, like the hints, because at that point in time they were hinting strongly about the real life relationships, but not revealing it. There's a whole thing of your brothers are known. I see you at home. That whole thing. But also 2. When it was revealed, and the next week on TV, Triple H has just taken all of the Irish jokes that he can about, did he slip her the shillelagh, stuff like that. I just enjoyed those promos. Anytime Vince McMahon could get humiliated on live TV by Triple H or someone else, it's a personal win for me. And I'm a Vince McMahon guy. I am. I grew up in a household that was very McMahonensian. We followed strict rules of Vincent Kennedy. It's almost like growing up with a Reagan family. Actually, quite like that. Actually. Oof. Anyway, boss, things he didn't like about it. I know.
Everything. So here's the thing.
Hey,
I hate
let's be honest,
everything about the storyline.
Let's be honest, though, boss. They were trying to rescue the storyline. Because this story, we know the intent.
So I hate the storyline. I hate everything about it. And here's the thing: people can say all they like. Oh well, yeah, but because obviously you know what the original plan was. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Did we get the original plan? No. So I'm judging it on what it was, and what it was a big pile of shit that had 0 redeeming qualities to me at all. And again, these are not objective. If I was to do an objective list, this wouldn't even be my top 10. So trust me, this is a personal thing about it. I hated everything about it. I hated this.
This is twice you brought Hornswoggle into it.
I hated this lawyer who sounded like he was pretending to be an American. He was clearly American, but he had the most un-American accent I've ever heard. It was
it was almost newsreader-esque, wasn't it? Of just a bland, just a generic American accent.
Yeah, and it's just like all this shit. It was just like fucking. I hated everything. I don't get me wrong. If you start an angle and then shit goes wrong, and so you have to try to rescue the angle. Yeah, I respect that you try, but here's the problem. If it ends up shit, it still ends up being shit.
Yeah.
And no amount of, oh, well, we had the best intentions. Fucking wonderful. You still fucked it up. And it wasn't worth the whole Hornswoggle's mom, was she magically delicious? As funny as those lines are, it just wasn't worth it.
I liked a little haha. That's why I liked it.
The only redeeming thing from it wasn't the storyline itself, but the fact it got Finlay a little bit more showtime. But again, it's not like the success he had when he was like the United States champion with fucking Regal and them.
No,
You
but he
know,
did have
so
he had a great match with JBL for WrestleMania coming out of it. I'll say that much.
yeah, but it's just I just fucking. I remember it is also directly responsible for the fucking anonymous general manager bullshit.
That's how he got the power, wasn't it?
In canon. So whether you're looking at it from a Smark point of view or a Mark point of view,
Yeah.
it's fucking terrible. So that's my number 2.
No, obviously, you can tell that I did enjoy that. I enjoyed the storyline because it led to a lot of moments, and I think you need that to lighten up a show sometimes. And as you say, the magic of delicious. Did you slip in a shillelagh? The old one of my favorite bits that's ever been on a Raw was on the Raw 2025 or 1000, sorry, but the Raw 15th anniversary with the McMahon reunion and Triple H ruining that family portrait, and Triple H literally just sitting there with Hornswoggle going, if only there was someone's music that would instantly make you feel better, and cue the Godfather, and just Horny going nuts. Like I enjoyed it, but as we said, this is very subjective. My number 2 may be. Yes. Well, you're going to see a connection between my number 2 and my number 1. To be fair, but this one is relying on something that was once a given to still be a given 8 years later. It's the One Warrior Nation in WCW. For those who don't know, the One Warrior Nation in WCW was the Ultimate Warrior, returning to WCW to face Hulk Hogan, which led to Hogan seeing him in the mirror and Hogan trying to do his best acting. And, well, if anyone's seen a Hulk Hogan acting, there's that shit. And then the whole...
I'm pretty certain his best acting gig was in a courtroom.
Well, he did win. Maybe his best acting gig was when he went to the locker room after the video was released, and he went and said sorry to everyone. Bear in mind, I will repeat this as well. Someone has said that he didn't apologize for what he said or what was meaning behind it. He apologized that it was made public. Which really didn't help his review. Now,
basically, so you got caught.
Exactly. The whole war, and the reason I say it's called the One Warrior Nation is because that's what he called it. It was NWO backwards, and that was supposed to mean something. The irony being that he directly shortened the career of the British Bulldog due to this fucking gimmick, due to the fact that there was a trapdoor placed in the ring so he could do the disappearing act quickly, and during one of the cases, the trapdoor's handle wasn't put down flat. Davey Boy took a bump, landed right on it, and it pretty much broke his back. On top of that as well, the whole bullshit where you could see him in the mirror, it works well with certain people. Taker can do that well. The Fiend is the Fiend around the Orton has done it to a point where it works, and there's some good stuff in it. However, Hogan is an overactor anyway. Even when he's just giving a promo in the 90s. He just goes over the top because that's what Hogan does. That's what he's always done. And it works. And people like it for it.
Yeah.
Warrior was never supernatural. So why did he suddenly become supernatural?
Yeah.
And One Warrior Nation, which was supposed to be Own, he went to War Games with Roddy Piper and DDP on his team. Where the fuck is the Own there?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons I didn't like it. The fact also is that pretty much as soon as he debuted, it went wrong. I mean, that whole debut segment is wrong. You've got Hogan and Bischoff saying their lines early. You've got fucking Warrior being late to the ring. The commentary team trying to go, oh, we know who that is, without telling you who it is because they're not sure what to call him at this point. The whole thing's just a shambles. It really is. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And the best thing as well is that Boss has watched some of these, and is it purely for entertainment purposes, or how bad is it?
Oh. Oh. the holding of the Hulk Hogan head and looking like something out of fucking Home Alone.
Well, you can tell why Thunder in Paradise didn't get a second season.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
So, boss, it's time to reveal your number one.
Oh, yes. So, we've had, on my list, we've had storylines that just didn't make sense.
Yep.
Storylines that weren't needed.
Yep.
Storylines that just tried to repeat tropes that didn't work.
Yep.
And storylines that could be considered to be inappropriate. So my number one is essentially all of that almost. It is my all-time least favorite storyline in the sense of if I could wipe a storyline that I forced myself to watch from existence, it would be the storyline from 2004. It's Kane, it's Matt Hardy, Lita, and Gene Snitsky. The marriage from hell leading to It wasn't my fault. So, dearest viewers of the show, allow me to give you a little bit of backstory here. You see, Matt Hardy and Lita were an item, and in 2004, Kane, that big old red love machine, found himself smitten with Lita.
Yeah.
And so a war brewed between both Kane and Matt Hardy, which would eventually lead to the winner of a match getting to marry Lita. And in this whole brawl thing, at one point, Kane had got a chair, put it on the neck of Matt Hardy, and was proceeding to by preparing with others before. However, to save Matt Hardy, Lita jumped in the way and said, "No, I agree to sleep with you if you will save Matt Hardy." Kane agreed, and thus both Lita and Kane did the nasties. And
what we should probably mention during this point in time as well is that as a result of this feud, as Matt Hardy got injured, and well, we can go into what happened in real life. There, all you got to do is go to
hide your wives. It's Edge.
Yeah, exactly.
So, in storyline, Lita then became pregnant with Kane's child.
And somehow developed an affection for Kane.
Yes. Later, this would lead to a match where Kane was screwed out of the world title. And he went to Eric Bischoff and screamed for a rematch. And Bischoff said, "I can't do that, but what I can do is give you a victim in a no disqualification match to vent your frustrations out on." And in the ring was the nobody known as Gene Snitsky. Now, not nobody because I don't like him. I don't have an opinion on Gene Snitsky, and he looked like a big guy, potentially decent talent.
Had a decent look.
But what was happening is during the match between Kane and this rookie, Gene Snitsky, who had just come over from OVW, the commentators were talking about, who is this guy? Snitsky? It's Gene Snitsky. And there was some back and forth. And then at one point, Kane grabs a chair to go and attack Gene Snitsky. And Gene Snitsky is able to strike Kane, knocking Kane over, making him fall on the pregnant Lita.
Q, oh my god, no, what's happened?
This would then lead to an angle where they would be at the hospital, or in WWE terms, local medical facility, where on national television, thus breaking the code of ethics for medical staff, the doctor would announce to the entire global viewing audience that the baby had died.
Cue a really weird scene of Kane in a hospital.
Kane in black shirt, business attire, crying at the side of Lita, who was staring blankly in a catatonic grief state. Which would then lead to Gene Snitsky's promo, where he was interviewed by the commentary team while he was standing backstage, and he uttered the word, "It wasn't my fault." Now, some of you who are a little bit more wiser to the older WWE days may recall this sounds actually vaguely similar to another miscarriage storyline that was done. But we can't blame Vince Russo for this one.
No.
Now,
and
when it comes
I
to...
mean, the difference being as well, at least, you know, there was an incident, and the other one, Terry just fell off the stairs for no reason.
Yeah. So, this entire thing, this
whole
in its
build-up
entirety was just, for me, so fucking vile.
No, it's offensive. Offensive as fuck.
Like, for me, there is, like, you could argue the merits of lifting talent, helping move superstars to a different face-heel divide, trying to put more spotlight on, like, a Matt Hardy or whatever. You could try to argue all that shit. But it has been said of the Reverend here that I do not know how to pick my hills to die on. And believe me, this is a hill I will die on. This storyline was absolute fucking burning horse shit.
And you can tell why, and you can tell that it is, that Boss is getting passionate about it, because not only is it just blatantly offensive, it's also vile and everything else, and horrendous and everything else, because also, we should point out, at some point on screen, Kane and Lita were married, but they never got divorced. But, on top of all of this as well, at one point, they make you think that Snitsky punted a baby.
Yeah.
And also, I want to put it this way. The reason you know this is a bad storyline is because it's one of those ones that our former co-host used to say was a great storyline just to try and be different.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Boss, there's nothing redeemable about this at all.
He's an extremely vile dinosaur.
True. I mean, there's just nothing good about this whole thing. This whole storyline, there isn't anything you can... I mean, because... Kane, you could have turned Kane face a fucking huge amount of ways. You could have turned Lita baby heel, then babyface, or whatever else you wanted to do with Lita. And the thing is, as well, this storyline was kind of continued until the Royal Rumble. So it went for like six months or so. And then, with the whole storyline, including the marriage from hell, that was like another 6 months on that as well. So Kane and Lita were in storyline for this for like a year, maybe longer.
Yeah. And
then it was revealed on like a Gold Rush match for the that Edge, you know, was Edge winning the bank as well, or he would have been winning the bank already this time.
He was holding the money in the bank.
Yeah. So Edge and Lita hooked up. And on screen, and then obviously because of influences from off screen, you know, and stuff like that, and it was like, the whole thing just didn't work. Like, it was like, okay, like, we're gonna make Kane babyface, but we're gonna bring in this new kid who's big enough to give Kane a challenge. But there are easier ways of doing this, right? And like, there's just nothing that I can say that I even remember redeemable about it.
And I'm not gonna go because I'm getting my mind ready to talk about the positives. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm just going to go ahead and ask for Geek, your number one worst storyline.
Well, I said you'll see a connection between my number one and my number two. Yes. The connection is the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, good.
And Papa Shango. Listen, I am a big Charles Wright fan. Charles Wright, as you know, as the Godfather, as I own Papa Shango merchandise. I literally own merchandise with it, like with the Papa Shango, and it's one of my favorite pieces that I can wear. And he was awesome. Papa Shango was a gimmick that if you could have got a bit more out of it, and I think they could have, would have worked well. Hell, I liked Kama Mustafa and Kama the Supreme Fighting Machine. Didn't like him when he was facing Taker, but that was just because it was my boy Taker. And
you got to pick your battles, you know. With that one, and Undertaker will always win that battle.
But the whole bullshit with the Ultimate Warrior and ooze coming down from his face, and you know, you've seen a little bit of Randy Orton recently doing that. You know, it's just horse shit. Like, I don't mind that it kind of works with the themes, but Papa Shango was the voodoo man, and you know, it didn't look real at the time either. Like, it just didn't look good. The best thing about the whole thing was the Jake the Snake vignettes, where Jake was trying to teach him to be, to not fear death and to not fear the Papa Shango or the Undertaker. Where he famously locks him in a casket. And then Jake leaves and goes to a different company, and you're like, well, this whole thing's just fell apart there, doesn't it? Yeah. I'll point out this as well. Other than the ooze coming out of him coughing shit up, and the green smoke and that, you can't remember the finish. You can't remember the match. You can't remember anything that all this builds up to. You just remember how bad everything looks and how bad that's why it's number one to me. It may not necessarily have been the worst, but you can't remember anything about it other than the negatives.
Yeah, you could argue that the worst thing that a storyline could do than leaving a negative impact is to leave no impact at all.
It's like what they say about wrestling in general. A wrestler needs to hear a reaction one way or another. If you are out there wrestling and you hear nothing, it's worse than hearing boos. At least if you hear boos, you could probably turn them heel. If you don't hear anything, they don't care about you, so therefore why are you out there? That's why it's number one for me. And it's quick and simple, that one. It's just I don't remember anything but the shit. And I remember pretty much everything. Like I remember a hell of a lot. But that I'm just like, nah, son, like, I got nothing. I couldn't tell you if I had a blow-off match on a super episode of Superstars, or if I had a blow-off match in the house shows, or if I had a blow-off match at all. It may be one of those ones they just dropped.
Yeah.
Like, Jake went off somewhere, Papa Shango disappeared for a little while, and then the Warrior probably was suspended for, I don't know, steroids or some shit, or I don't know, maybe it was around about the time that he got sacked the day after SummerSlam because he held the show hostage. Like, maybe it was that. I mean,
never hold the show hostage.
But like I said, it was one of those things where you just don't remember anything. But
no, you're right.
However, for the next 6 things that I'm going to mention, you remember a lot. With that being said, boss, what is your honourable mention?
My honourable mention for best storylines for me, my favourite storylines. My honourable mention is Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon.
Wow, that's an honourable mention?
Here's why it's an honourable mention. 1, I did not get to watch all of it.
Fair play.
2, where do you start? Because the Austin McMahon thing has had so many chapters and so many arcs and so many volumes and so many special editions and offshoots. And
it's like the Lord of the Rings.
Kind of, exactly. Like, Austin McMahon is its own universe at this stage. And it's really, really hard to pinpoint, where in the whole thing, like, I would find my favorites. So again, think about this. An honorable mention for me isn't saying, I didn't quite make the top 5. Yeah. It would have been number 1 if it had not been for this.
Yeah, fair play.
The same reason that May 19th was not my number 1 was because it is a very personal reason, but if it hadn't been for that one thing, it wouldn't even be on my list
at all.
That's
very true,
I
boss,
wouldn't have given it a shit.
Very true. Yes, Frozen, but he'll be with us in just a second, I think.
With this one, this would have been my number 1 to begin to even where. Yeah. So you could assume that if I was including shit that I didn't really see the first time I was including, this would be my number 1. So don't think that my top 5 is me going, well, these were far better than this. No. This would have been my number 1, but I had some different ideas.
Fair play.
So
Fair play.
That's my honourable mention.
All right, well, I can understand that because they said that, you said you've included things that you've watched the entire way through, or at least the majority of it the entire way through.
Exactly. Exactly.
For me, my honourable mention is, and this will probably shock a lot of people, is A Summer of Punk. It's
interesting.
It's the pipe bomb.
Would not have expected that from you.
Yeah, listen, I'm somewhat of a punk. I don't know how do I put it. I'm not a fan of the man. I think there's a lot to be left in what he portrays himself to be, to what reality shows us, to what reality gives us in terms of Punk is the man who fights for the little man. He was the voice of the voiceless. But then he screws his best friend. You know, then he keeps teasing things, and you know, I saw a quote that he put out there today, so you won't care that I've said this. He put a tweet out. It's something he said before, I think, as well, of why are you allowing, or why are you listening to critics of people you wouldn't go for advice? Yeah, that's a great quote. It sounds nice. It's a soundbite. But if I'm going to go ask for friendly advice with someone, it wouldn't be CM Punk. If I'm going to ask how to treat people correctly in all ways of life, it wouldn't be CM Punk. If I'm going to ask how to get over something, it definitely wouldn't be CM Punk. But needless to say, from the pipe bomb right through to the Johnny Ace, the Kevin Nash, the Triple H promos and all that, the contract with Vincent Kennedy McMahon, I still quote some of that stuff with Boss as a way. You know, you're gonna apologize and you will like it. You know.
And let's not forget the fantastic line against The Rock. You're gonna find that your arms are too short to box with God.
Exactly. But all the way through it, like the Summer Punk, all the way through the face run especially. Don't get me wrong, I was not a hater of the heel run because I love me some Paul A.
Oh yes.
It's ECW in me. It needs it. Well, fuck it. It's a dangerous alliance in me. It needs it. But yeah, the Summer Punk is undoubtedly one of the greatest runs ever. Yeah. Of someone that could have just walked away when his contract was coming up and went to, as he says himself, I'm going to Ring of Honor, or I'll go to TNA, or hell, I'll go to New Japan. He would have thrived in New Japan in that period of time in 2010. It would have been just before the Okada rise, but you would have got Shinsuke versus Punk. Come on, guys. Tanahashi versus Punk. Personally, for me, because of how I've just described CM Punk, Suzuki-san versus Punk. Tomohiro Ishii versus Punk. Katsuyori Shibata versus Punk, which I can't say because my accent makes it sound like it's a sandwich. You know, it's.
I mean, if it was Welsh, it would be.
You know, it's one of those things where
Ciabatta.
He could have just walked away, but he didn't, and he turned that into something that was great. And for that, I respect that.
Yeah.
For everything else, I would recommend a long walk off a short plank.
Yeah.
So, Boss, with that said, I know you're a fan of it. Yeah, that was a positive, by the way, guys. That was my positive honourable mention.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be good.
Hey, don't get me started. That's all it is. It's just don't get me started on that man.
Well, starting off my top 5 list, at number 5, it is Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey, main event WrestleMania run. So here's why.
Can we have a TMO where you don't do it?
Because you're. What?
Can we have a TMO where you don't piss off the fans by including Becky Lynch?
No. So again, people are going to be like, "You're Becky Lynch, Mark," and my response to that is no. I'm a Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, Mark.
You are the man. You're much more of the man, Mark, than you are a Flair, Mark. But still, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, but here's the thing I loved about this. For me, this is a very different vibe.
Yeah.
It was women are going to be in the main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh.
I was the same.
That has a very a lovely flavor to it. That has me interested.
That was a different to what I had.
Yeah, but also.
Oh, we haven't got an also.
And just honestly, as much as I wanted Becky Lynch to win, and believe me, I was rooting for Becky Lynch. My biggest hope was that someone would just shut that Ronda Rousey bitch up. That's all I wanted. I mean, here's the thing. Would I have been disappointed if Charlotte Flair won? A tiny bit. But if she'd beaten Ronda Rousey, I would have accepted that as a win. You see, There's an adage in wrestling that people either people either pay to see you win or pay to see you get the shit kicked out of you. And that is a match that I would have paid to either see Becky or Charlotte win, or just to pay to see Ronda get her ass handed to her.
And I'd like to point out at this point in time as well, that is a match that, as Boss has just said, that is a match he'd pay to go see that happen. And Boss is not one who can actually go to see things happen, but he would make that happen. Like,
yeah.
Boss in live events is a no-go, but Boss would pay for that one.
Yeah. I honestly, like, out of all the matches that I could ever want to see in person, that one I would definitely like to have seen in person. Because you've got to understand, and this is where people might be like, oh, he's just trying to be...
That sounds like another list, by the way.
Yeah, people are like, yeah, I mean, people are going to be like, oh, you just try to, you know, seem like, you know, a feminist thing, you just try to play up to a female audience, but let me make this expressly clear. Becky Lynch is my favourite superstar of this era. Of all time? No. But is she currently number one? Yes. Do I give a flying fuck if anyone disagrees with me? No. Because I'm okay with people liking who they like.
Yeah.
You can like whoever you want. And for me, Becky Lynch just has my attention.
Yeah.
Not just because she is fine. Because she is. You know, it's like fucking fair enough. But
yeah, I mean,
it's
pretty
just
much
something
from...
about her.
There was a period of time where you were always like, Becky Lynch is my favourite female wrestler. Becky Lynch, you know, she's... And then it got to a point, though, it was just... When people were, you know, obviously we had a lot of Q&As back in the day and stuff like that, was, can you name your favourite wrestlers, you know, and Boss would, without even thinking about it, the first name he mentioned was Becky Lynch, and it just became a matter of fact that Becky Lynch was just his favourite wrestler. Like, male, female, no matter, it was just favourite.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love Becky Lynch. I love what Charlotte Flair does. I don't do well with her in a face persona. Like, for me, she's a
natural heel, yeah.
Yeah, she's a natural heel, you know. But I love what she can do in the ring. I love her promo work, especially as a heel. I love just how well together she is. And she can outperform a lot of the men, if not most of them.
I mean, I would argue that last year's WrestleMania, her and Rhea Ripley, was possibly the best match of the first night, if not the best match of the weekend.
I honestly, I feel there's a lot of merit to that. Watching Rhea Ripley and Charlotte go at it. Rhea Ripley is another one where I'm just like,
love the nightmare.
To the moon, to the fucking moon.
Strap a rocket, because that one's fucking going well past the moon.
But let me come back to the storyline, because a lot of people are thinking that, well, you're talking a lot about the match, which is a fair point, but no, the storyline was impressive, because for me it was the journey of the foregone conclusion of Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, we had, from the moment Ronda debuted, that's what people thought.
Yeah. And we thought that, a lot of people were thinking that Becky Lynch was going to be there to be the pinfall. Now, at the same time, there are people who will be like, well, no, it's obvious that Becky's going to win because she's got all the hype. And that's the thing.
That didn't happen to
wrestling. Yeah. Everyone when it comes to wrestling thinks they have it. Like, how many times have you and me talked about it? And I said, well, yeah, that seemed obvious. You know, and you know, it's because sometimes we see things a certain way, and therefore that's the obvious way. But that's not always the fucking case. No. Sometimes the best swerve is no swerve. You know. But this,
let's be honest as well, boss. Like, if I can, to me, Becky Lynch was never involved in that match until September or October, I would say. Because that's when the man debuted. You know, everyone thinks that this whole Becky Lynch thing was, oh, well, of course she was penciled in. No, she was penciled in around about the December period of time. Like, we're going to have to put Becky in this, because August, she was still doing the last kicker.
Yeah. And
then she supposedly turned heel, but she turned on Charlotte. 2 months later, she's the man. Yeah. And then she's winning championships, losing championships in December. January, she has one of the biggest Royal Rumble pops I have ever heard, and I have watched all of the Royal Rumble matches ever. She had a Road Warrior pop mixed with a Stone Cold Steve Austin pop mixed with the Edge return pop just because she walked out and said, "Put me in there."
Yeah.
And that was when she was inked into that match.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like, you watch the story of these three going to me because they all had their mindset. Ronda was, "I'm going to win."
Yeah.
Charlotte was, "I want to win." Becky was, "I need to win."
Yeah, almost you could put it like this as well. As you said though, Becky was, "I need to win." Becky was Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 17. She would do anything to win that match. Charlotte was, "I'm the queen. It's got to be me."
Yeah.
And Ronda had this Mike Tyson, "You either love me or you hate me, but quite frankly, I'm gonna win."
Yeah.
And that's when you went into that match thinking, and also like the build up to that match to me was treated no differently than if it was because it was women than if it was males. Look at the fight they had with the police backstage. And that was the first time you'd seen stuff like that. Yeah. It was very much treated as these are just female competitors, but they're in this normal storyline.
Yeah. Like, this could have easily have been a match of, like, Austin, Rock, and Triple H, or Austin, Taker, Triple H, or whatever
combination
you want to put it. Yeah. It was an incredibly well-built story with a fantastic payoff.
Yeah.
And it just...
And then how long that WrestleMania was as well. That crowd was red hot during that match. Like...
Yeah, it was just fantastic. And I loved it, and that is why it's my number 5.
I loved to be fair, I loved a lot about that, and I know I teased you about at the beginning, you know, the whole TMO thing and that, but yeah, it works fine for us, so that's the important thing. My number 5, we're going to go to WCW.
WCW.
And we're going to go to 1996, and it's quite easily the best storyline that ever came out of WCW, because it's just too sweet. It is the original NWO. Now, I mean original because I'm only going to go to it probably about 6 or 7 months after this for me personally. The original NWO was such a cool storyline that you hadn't really seen on proper TV. I'd never seen it because I didn't get Japan back then or anything like that. But to me, as a kid who did flick backwards and forwards to try and catch the best parts, and also taped WCW on a different fucking VCR that was tuned to a special channel so I could watch it the next day after having watched Raw, but also recorded Raw because I was a child, so I might have fell asleep halfway through. It was so cool to see Razor Ramon, in my eyes, walk down into the WCW ring and go,
"Oh yeah,
hey yo, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. Billionaire Ted, we coming for you." And then the next week, tease, you know, and then see Big Daddy Cool Kevin Nash, Diesel, give me an education in English because I never knew that play was an adjective.
Yeah.
And build it up, and then see, and you know, they built this up as well. People think, oh, it was just happened. They built this up over 2 pay-per-views.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't reveal Hogan until fucking 2 months and like basically 3 hours. Don't know, feel that when you watch it now, you watch that Bash on the Beach, you might as well have a timer as if it was an episode of 24 at the bottom of when it happens.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know. At the time, you just didn't know. But now, you're sitting there going, it's coming. It's coming. Oh. And the thing that people say ruined it, to me, never ruined it. People say that Bobby ruined it, try to be smart and say, but whose side is on? But Bobby never trusted Hogan. That was his whole deal.
Yeah.
He spent his whole career trying to put him out of the business, and almost when it happened, it was almost like he went, fucking told you guys. I've told you for years this guy was scum.
For context, I'm one of the people that felt it was ruined, but again, retroactive viewing, and me and Geek have had this conversation before, and I'm inclined to actually agree with Geek that it didn't ruin it. It's just that, you know, we have our different ideas of how we would have Book that. By the way, apologies for the background noise. It's just become really fucking hot in this room, so I have to stick the fan.
It's quite a warm day anyway, and it's really. It's obviously you've got heating on and stuff like that. It's getting warm as well because we're getting to that point in England where we're about to have 2 nice weeks of weather, and then back to normality.
Yeah, but to kind of to talk about the storyline. I mean, here's the thing. I hate Hogan. You know, I hate Hogan.
Same.
But as bad as the NWO thing got, this really did change the dynamic of professional wrestling.
It did. It just
and people will say, but it's a borrowed storyline from Japan. I was like, it doesn't matter. None of that matters because
let's just be honest. There's no such thing as an original concept.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how you come across an idea. It doesn't matter how it came about, why it came about. All that matters is, does it work? And the answer is fucking yes.
Yeah, and it did as well.
You can point to that as being the reason why WWF were getting their ass kicked for so fucking long. 83 weeks of pure, unadulterated fucking ass kicking.
Yeah.
I mean, and it starts with that trigger of, that Punk can't even get in the building. But me, I go wherever I want, whenever I want. Followed by, where's your friend? Where's the big guy? Oh, shit.
Well, medium-sized man and the big man. That's what he called himself.
I know. Just the fucking balls on Scott Hall being the medium. It's like, fuck.
Scott Hall can only say he's a medium-sized guy because of Kevin Nash. Like,
I know. Fucking.
Kevin Nash is 6'2", 6'10", 6'11", right? Scott Hall is 6'4", 6'6". Hogan is 6 or something around that. And he's like, the medium-sized man and the big man. It's just one of those things. I loved it. I loved the whole thing. I own NWO merchandise because of the NWO being such a cool thing. But also at the same time, for me personally, it was one of the only times I was like, yeah, Hulk Hogan's kind of cool. Because Hulk Hogan's kind of cool. Never really got behind him as, maybe it was the whole red, white, and blue, and eat your vitamins, say your prayers, train, and I'm like, can't I just do something else? And then you saw your big Daddy Cool was just a big guy and beat people up, and to me, I was a big kid who beat people up, so fucking yes, of course I can do that. So, boss, with all that being said, and as we said, that is probably just too sweet.
Too sweet.
What is your number 4?
Number 4, we are going to 2006.
Ooh.
And we are going with Mick Foley versus Edge, rated hardcore.
That is a great one.
I loved everything about this storyline between Matt Hardy and Edge, from the face versus heel dynamic.
Mick Foley and Edge.
Thank you. I don't know what I said.
Matt Hardy.
Thank you. So I loved everything from Mick Foley and Edge, from when Mick was a face, Edge was a heel, the WrestleMania match, all the way up to the hardcore match on Raw, when Edge said Mick Foley could have any match he wants. So he made it a triple threat with Tommy Dreamer, and then he and Edge beat the shit out of Tommy Dreamer in a huge heel turn, which led to eventually Mick Foley declaring Edge the greatest hardcore champion of all time, giving him the belt. Edge wouldn't accept it. So Edge and Mick Foley went, no, we shall be cool hardcore champions, which of course then ended up at some point leading off to ECW One Night Stand, which would be Mick Foley and Edge versus Terry Funk and Tommy Dreamer.
Your whore, Cactus. Your whore.
Yeah. So I loved this entire storyline. It even had ramifications later on in Edge's career when he would be ready to take on The Undertaker in a TLC match for the World Championship, and he called Mick Foley on to be a guest on the Cutting Edge and was asking his advice on how to be Undertaker, and Mick Foley in his very impassioned way saying, if this Edge goes to Undertaker, he's going to get torn apart, he's going to be eaten alive, but if it's the Edge that I fought in WrestleMania, and the greatest hardcore match the world has ever seen, that man could possibly beat the Undertaker.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, the power of the... Because basically you had a hardcore icon, but fuck the hardcore icon thing. Just a fucking amazing professional wrestling mind. A man who just understood psychology to the point where it was oozing out of his pores through his flannel jacket. looked at a guy like Edge and went, fuck yeah. Yeah, I can do this. And it just created something so beautiful and so magnificent. And it is the only hardcore match in the history of wrestling that I enjoyed watching.
Oh yeah, and because you're not a hardcore man. For me, it was one of those. It was one of those things where I was like, it was about, to me, I don't even look at it as a hardcore storyline, despite the fact there was multiple hardcore matches involved. You know, from the WrestleMania match, from the Tommy Dreamer, you know, where Mick Foley ripped out the heart of ECW, the Terry Funk beatdown that led to Funk, you know, you're a slut cactus, you're a whore, and you know, to all of those, you know, all those matches, and then the ECW match, which was fucking brutal, all the way through it, you know, everything, and it was, to me, initially it started off simply as both men wanting to have that WrestleMania moment. Needing to have that WrestleMania moment. Mick had never had a WrestleMania moment that quite lived up to Mick Foley. The Edge had never had a solo WrestleMania moment. It had always been involving the tag teams, you know, and you know, before that, he'd been in the Money in the Bank. That wasn't a WrestleMania moment. That was money, like, it was something new. And he won that by kind of sneaking in. You know, before that, he didn't have a moment at WrestleMania 20 because he was injured. And then if you go back to them, the last time he had a singles match was, it was about shampoo. Like, you know, so it was meaning that, and then they took it to the hardcore level and went through all of that, and it's one of those ones. And it's still to this point where I like going back and watching it, because it started off by Edge calling Mick a transitional champion, and Mick going, well, what does that make you? And and that was it. From there, you know, so yeah, I'm definitely in favour of that one, and particularly if any time I can, you know, break out the old Terry Funk impression, and you know, you're Vince McMahon's whore cactus.
But Cash Brew, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is summed up in one word.
Okay.
Yes. 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 Because my number 4 is the Yes Movement. To me, it is the most recent storyline I've got on this, and it was like Rocky.
2013.
Yeah, well, and leading into 2014. But it was like watching a Rocky Balboa, you know, a movie, and for like a year, you know, because 9 months pretty much, and they did it so fucking well. From Daniel Bryan winning the championship against John Cena, and everyone is going, wait a minute, Daniel Bryan's the world champion, and us reacting that way as well, because I believe we watched that one live together, and then the pedigree, and your heart breaks because you're like, oh no, Triple H is in on this, and you know, it leads to the authority, and it leads to Randy Orton feuds, and Shawn Michaels being a heel after retirement, which is something we never thought we'd see, you know. To the night that Seattle took over Raw. Yeah. To the night that, you know, to everything, to the Royal Rumble, you know. I recently said that I hadn't been so disappointed in an ending of a pay-per-view since Rey Mysterio came out at number 30. Yeah. And it was that, you know, to the cage match that unfortunately led to the long layoff that Daniel Bryan had in his career with Bray Wyatt, and that crowd was so red hot. I'm someone who thrives on the adrenaline that I get from crowds, and that's not even if I'm there, just watching. If a crowd is red hot, white hot, I can feel it. It's like an addiction that I have, which is why it's been so hard watching wrestling for the last year, or you know, and a bit more.
I can understand that.
But all of that leading to the great video package that they did for Daniel Bryan leading into WrestleMania 30. The night the Yes Movement took over Raw and held it hostage, for that match to the match with Triple H, which is fucking amazing because it's kind of overlooked in this whole thing at WrestleMania,
Yes.
to the actual Miracle on Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
It's just so well executed, so well done, and it was a true movement and something that we haven't seen in a while, and something that we hadn't seen at that point for a while either. You know, that it was the irony being that the whole thing was sparked by CM Punk disappearing. Like, CM Punk thought that facing Triple H at WrestleMania was a demotion. Daniel Bryan went, I'll face him, and if you want, I'll do another match at the end. Like, he took that as an opportunity, and it's how you look at life. That's what that was. But, like I said, it was one of those genuine crowd things, because if you remember, the whole yes and no chant started after WrestleMania 28, the night after. It's in Miami, Florida, in a dark match, they had them out there, and they were doing the yes and no chants, and then from then, it just grew. By the time you hit SummerSlam 2013, you were laughing. Like, that thing was making money without even needing to. And it just needed someone to pull that trigger. Because you had all the B+ stuff beforehand and after. You know, it was so well done to the point where, for Kofi Mania, they used that. They used Daniel Bryan as a heel, calling him that, and echoing what he'd always been told. And it could be much higher on this list. But for me, it's number 4. And like I said, any of the 3, 4, and 5 could be switched out for me at any point in time when you ask me. Number 1 and 2 are pretty much secured.
Because here's the funny thing. This is number 2 on my list.
Well,
the yes movement is my number 2.
Well, there you go. However, what is your number 3?
We are going to 2007.
Really? Did anything happen in 2007?
We are temporarily leaving the world of WWE and going to TNA.
Why?
Where 2 storms were facing one another. 2 forces that would have to collide to prove who truly was the best professional wrestler. Was it Kurt Angle or Samoa Joe?
Wow, that's a pull to be in your top 5. I mean, granted, mine. Yeah, that's a great one. To be fair, great storyline, had some great matches. And it was very simple build-up. Yeah, go. I mean, explain why you personally put it on there, though, boss.
I love wrestling. I love promos. I love scripting, that kind of stuff. I love creative ideas, but despite being a 5'5", 290-odd pound fat bastard some bitch that has issues moving around, I love wrestling. I love submission wrestling. I love technical wrestling. I love flowing wrestling. I love chain wrestling. I love it all. And to watch an Olympic, gold medal, Olympic standard wrestler take on a wrestling machine like Samoa Joe was just magical. And to not just see it once but multiple times in this storyline of just proving who is the best. You don't even have to include the fact that at one point they held all the belts, you know, and even held belts from other companies. You could even remove that if you really wanted to. It would still be just a great story because it was about one of the few things that gets overlooked in the wrestling business today of just which one of us two is the fucking best. It is a storyline that gets rarely told anymore. These days it's about this guy screwed this guy happens to be my evil brother, this one was actually dating my ex-wife, this one pissed me off by trying to injure me, now I want revenge by taking this title. It is rare these days. And there's nothing wrong with having stories. Nothing wrong with that at all. I'm not suggesting as such. But it is interesting when sometimes it just boils down to, yo, which one of us is the best?
It's true.
And that's what that story was. Yes, there was a face, there was a heel, Kurt Angle was a heel, and all that stuff. But it's just watching Samoa Joe enter the ring, handing Kurt Angle his TNA World title and stuff like that, as well as wearing his X Division title and tag team. It said to him, look, this is what I'm saying. Let bygones be bygones. You know, all the stuff that happens in the past, it don't matter because all I want to know is which one of us two is really the best,
Yeah.
man. And it's like, fuck yes, here we go. Fucking want to see it. And I just loved that chemistry because for me, you want to get me on board, that's a hook. To have someone go like even if it was someone like Baron Corbin, who I've never really been a fan of, I think he's fantastic at what he does, but I just don't click with him. But even if it was like he walked up to Triple H and he was like, Trips, you know, I don't, you know, you better not look at me as whatever, but I gotta know which one of us is the best. I'd be like, sold, okay, I'm watching this because I love that story.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories in wrestling to tell is, yo, which one of us? And you get me with that kind of a story, I'm there.
No, it's a simple story. It's the oldest story in wrestling history. Which of these two are best?
Yeah, and when you have caliber like Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe being those two,
Their lockdown match is one of the best matches that TNA ever produced.
yeah,
I mean, Joe was on fire. Angle was red hot. Yeah, it was one of those things which generally kept me interested in TNA in a time in the business where there wasn't a great deal going on in any company.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's a great shout, boss. That's a great shout.
Yeah. So what about you, Geek? What is your number 3?
My number 3 is the McMahon Helmsley era.
Interesting.
Because it started from the night that Triple H and Stephanie concocted the plan, and the marriage was interrupted, everything else, and leads through to the Armageddon storyline where Stephanie finally does the turn and tells Vince the next night on Raw that she's not Daddy's little girl anymore, and that Triple H really turns her on, and they get all the way through that, and then you get to the point where they're running a show, and you get some great moments out of that because of The Rock taking hold of the WWF and threatening to walk out if Mick Foley's not brought back in, and he's going to take all the wrestlers with him to form the World Rock Federation. And they've all agreed to it, and you get like moments like that. You get during this as well. You get so many intertwined storylines. You get Kane and X-Pac. You've got the Outlaws versus the Dudleys and the APA. And you've got the Jericho situation being brought into it. That the May Raw in Penn State in 2000 versus Jericho versus Triple H is still one of the most beautiful pops and piece of work that I've ever seen. Where they think Jericho's won the championship, but they reverse it due to the referee being a fast count and all of that.
Yeah.
And also involved in that is one of my favorite matches ever that happened in the Garden. Mick Foley as Cactus Jack versus Triple H. And once again, Cactus Jack is brought as a real threat purely based on the reaction of Triple H, just like it was in 1998 or 97, as a matter of fact. So much of it was really well done. And you have people say, yeah, but it was McMahon's. What the fuck do you think you're going to watch on WWE TV?
Yeah.
Like, it's their company. And then you had the McMahon in every corner, which I personally did like. Linda, I can do her out. You've got so many there's greatness everywhere involved in that until, you get to the point where you kind of separate it and it goes a different way. But to me, that was prime when I was not only watching wrestling, but understanding everything that was going on. Like, mid-2000s, well, early 2000s, even, in fact, because it happened 99 to 01, really. It was great. Kurt Angle was main event talent. You had the Commissioner Foley to be the guy against them, Whenever the McMahon Helmsley era thought they had something, Mick Foley, the Commissioner, would come, no, you can't do that anymore. So it's just so much fun for me, and it holds a place in my heart of a time period of wrestling where not only was I understanding the matches, enjoying the matches, I was also understanding storylines.
Yeah. Well, we've kind of talked about my number 2, because my number 2 slot is the Yes Movement, and I genuinely have nothing else to add at that one. So I don't want to take up too much time with that one. So all I'll say about the Yes Movement is this. What I personally loved about it was just, it's the ultimate underdog story. you gotta love a good underdog story, especially when it's done so well, and it had such a, no joke intended, it had a very positive energy,
Yeah.
very uplifting, and it was one of those stories that was so naturally told and came about in such a way that you couldn't normally just write it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it felt natural, and it just came out at the right time with the right people in the right way. And on a side note, kudos for Batista. Ate so much shit for like, oh, why Batista here? He wouldn't sell for anybody. It's like he's the one that took the fucking submission at WrestleMania. He's a business guy. You know, I don't want to hear this shit. End of. So I'm just gonna say, Geek, number 2 on your top 5 favorite storylines.
You got lust in your eyes. The
Ooh.
mega powers explode.
Okay.
The Mega Powers Explode is one of WWE's greatest hits. It's if you were going to you're gonna go to a Metallica show, you want to hit Enter Sandman, Seek and Destroy. You go to WWE Hall of Fame or Creative, and you've got someone like Bruce Pritchard. You sit there and go, "Tell me about the Mega Powers." What? A little bit. You want to hear it. You know, it's watching clips, the great action clips, and seeing nothing but Arnie blow shit up and say something, cool off. You know, something like that, you know?
Yeah.
You know, seeing Rambo, you know, if you see Rambo, you better see the knife, and you, at some point, you better produce a bow and arrow. You know, that's, you know, it's that thing. It's seeing Batman, if Batman's there, tell me about the Joker. That's what, is what that is. Simply put, it was one of their greatest hits. It was the biggest drawing WrestleMania for years as well, number 5. But it was so good because unless you know what's happening, you didn't know it was legitimately a what the fuck? You had 2 of the biggest icons, 2 of the biggest heroes, 2 of the biggest superstars as tag team partners, and suddenly Motch is getting a bit weary, a bit jealous. You can see it when you look back on. There was moments where Motch is looking, stuff like that. And then it happens on a Saturday night's main event, and you see it, and it breaks your heart because Liz is torn in both ways. It's just so well put together, you know. And then then it asks you the question of, before they make Motch, you know, the heel, of what side are you though? Are you Team Motch or are you Team Hogan? And it was one of those things where it was so well done and told so fucking good. It was just, it's hard to top, and they didn't for a long time. But yeah, I mean, that's my number 2, and it's simply, I mean, Mega Powers Explode. You can say that to wrestling fans, and the vast majority of them, if they're, say, older than 10 to 15, well, I say 10, will know what you're talking about from either context of history or anything like that. And when you can tell a storyline by just telling you the headline of the storyline, you're winning. Do excuse me, I'm putting the light on quickly. There we go.
Okay. So
what's your number 1 then,
we are
boss?
down. we are down, or I suppose up to our number 1. Our number 1 picks. What are our favourite wrestling storylines? And for me personally, we're going to 2002. And we are going to HBK versus Triple H. Shawn Michaels returned after so long, and as the newest member of the NWO, he is around for a while. Things happen with Nash and Waltman and all this stuff, and he comes across Triple H, and Triple H is like, you know, hey, I have an idea and stuff. And the story goes, the wrestling story goes, not the behind the scenes, that Triple H wanted Shawn to be his manager. And Shawn was like, fuck no.
Yeah.
But Triple H is like, well, I don't know, we'll do DX again. Fucking great. So they go down the ring, you know, DX theme is playing, they hit the ring, Triple H says, let's get ready to suck it. And then pedigree Shawn Michaels in the middle of the ring. And we're like, what the fuck, Trips? What the fuck is wrong with you, man? You douchebag.
Bear in mind, Triple H had been a babyface from his return in January at this point.
Yeah. Now, Triple H goes on to explain that, Shawn couldn't do this one thing for him. Like, he had been, he'd carry Shawn's bags, he'd done all this for him, and now he just wanted Shawn to the favour, stuff like that. But Shawn is revealed to have been involved in an altercation backstage. We see that he's been, basically had the shit beaten out of him. He's bloody, he's best. Triple H runs to the back. And he's going, what the hell's going on here? He sees Shawn bleeding. He can't believe it. And Eric Bischoff's like, man, I knew you were vicious, but goddamn. And Triple H says, you think I did this? Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's no ad-lib.
No.
He said that. It was beeped.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was Society of, who attacked him, because obviously there have been some people who were like, well, it's obvious he did it. And it was like one of those things where it's like, that was one hell of a reaction. And they did the whole, CSI, enhanced the image. And they found out that it was Triple H that attacked Shawn in a bizarre twist, but still welcomed. And
it was
this
you,
prompted...
Hunter.
Yeah. It says that the doctors said that I am unfit to compete, but I should be ready, say, around about SummerSlam. And this led to, for me, the first unsanctioned match that I ever remember watching. Something that was called an unsanctioned match. To see Shawn Michaels return to fight Triple H. Now, Shawn Michaels, Heartbreak Kid, we were used to him throwing super kicks and dancing. We didn't know what were we going to get out of Shawn Michaels.
That was the thing, that was JR and King would say that constantly.
Yeah. Now, this match that they had at SummerSlam was amazing. Like, was it the greatest match of all time? No. Would it be in the top 10 of great matches of all time? Arguable? Probably not. But the story and the way it was told was beautiful. And here's the thing. It didn't end at SummerSlam. It continued onwards all the way to Survivor Series at the Elimination Chamber, when Shawn Michaels and Triple H would be the last two surviving members of Elimination Chamber. Triple H still clinging on to his World Heavyweight Championship for dear life against Shawn Michaels, admittedly wearing the worst trunks ever in tights. However, it looked like Shawn was not going to be able to do it. He was a bloody mess. He was fighting the cerebral assassin, a man who was just hitting his fucking prime. Shawn Michaels is retired and has come back. Yeah, he had a great show at SummerSlam with the flash pinfall, but could he really survive the Elimination Chamber and take the world title? Well, Triple H is slowly getting up. Shawn's in the corner. Bang! Hitting the sweet chin music. 1, 2, 3.
And Madison Square Garden goes fucking nuts.
As Shawn Michaels is announced the new World Heavyweight Champion. This is a story that would go on all the way to WrestleMania. And yes, the Canadian Crippler was involved, obviously, in that match. But this was a story that was continuing because of this storyline. For all the bullshit that came...
It lasted about 3 years or something. It was ridiculous.
Exactly. So, for all the evil that person did, that still played a part in this. And that WrestleMania match was fantastic. No matter what you say about it, and trust me, we have opinions. But the bottom line is, this was a story so beautifully made through just history, and then playing on that history with two guys who knew what each other were thinking, and it created, for me, my favorite story that I've seen play out.
I mean, there's so many great moments in that entire storyline. It's like you say that I'll be ready by say SummerSlam. I get goosebumps with that. I legitimately do. The Armageddon Three Stages of Hell match, the Elimination Chamber, their one-on-one match at the Royal Rumble in 04, the Last Man Standing match, the night that Shawn Michaels nearly won the championship in San Antonio.
Well, you got to remember as well, they still had WWF New York.
Yeah.
Because there was an episode where Shawn Michaels comes out the wheelchair, then Kip Up's out of the fucking wheelchair to show he's ready.
The time that he comes out and causes him comes out the casket during a casket match on Raw Roulette.
Yes.
And it's Triple H with a teacher music is dancing like he did afterwards. Then Kane sits up and he goes, bye, and leaves quickly.
Yep.
Like there's so many things that lasted for so long. As he's mentioned, it happened at WrestleMania. No, the WrestleMania match wasn't the following WrestleMania. It was 2 years. It was the second WrestleMania that followed his return. And even then it continued after that. Arguably it continued right through until DX returned in 06. You know, there was always those moments. Yeah, it's a great story. Once again, it was one of those brotherhoods that turned sour, but there was that bond that always united them. One way or another, they were always going to be in competition with each other.
Yeah.
My number one storyline of all times is one I grew up on. It's what was injected into me every Monday night on Raw. It was Austin McMahon.
Yeah.
Every single Monday Night Raw, I tuned in going, wonder what Austin's going to do tonight, Dad. Every week. Wonder what he's going to do to McMahon this week. And the best thing was that we had, at the time, we could watch the pay-per-view, which was usually aired on Sky for free on the Monday.
Yes.
It was aired at 9 o'clock at night on the Monday. So, as a kid, I wasn't allowed to watch a little bit of it if I was good, but I had school, so it was recorded. I'd watch it as soon as I came in. The first thing I would do, fling my school bag, take my jumper off, sit down, put that tape in, and not move for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And watch Monday Night Raw. Well, the pay-per-view. Because I was lucky enough that we didn't watch Raw until that Friday. It aired on TV on Friday nights. At the same time as it would anyway, and if I was good on a Friday, I'd be allowed to stay up and watch it. I'd be good at school all week, which, you know, sometimes my dad hid things from me more.
Yeah.
I famously remember telling the staff, well, being a leader of a group and all of us doing the DX crotch chop, and maybe being the only one who didn't say suck it, because I knew that would get me in trouble. But apparently got in trouble because I was the gang leader anyway, and fucking was still doing the cross chops because I was the Triple H. And me dad going, well, did you see it? No. All right then. Yeah, listen, it's funny, but I'm going to shout at you for 30 seconds. Pretend to be sad, and your mum comes in to see if you want any dinner. But all right, son.
Yeah.
He shouted. He left. I was sitting in the room. My mum came in. I made myself look sad. And then she left and she went, yeah, I think you're a bit harsh. Like, and that happens sometimes. I remember all week long after, like, a pay-per-view, distinctly remember the night that Vince McMahon stole the Smoking Skull belt and left at the end of the pay-per-view and hit his finger up. The next day at school, what's Austin going to do to get back to him? The day after that, what do you think Austin's going to do? The day after that, what do you think? It dominated my life of Austin McMahon. And don't bear in mind, there was also a talk about all the other storylines that happened at the time. Kane and The Undertaker, which was a very close number 6 on my list. All of it we would talk about, you know, Rock. We would do Rock promos, forgetting half of the lines and not understanding the other half. Like, we would do all sorts, you know. I think I've mentioned this on a TMO episode in the past. I once tried to put someone through a table and was disappointed because it was one of those fixed school tables you used to get. And tried it again. And when the teacher asked me, why did you just do that? My response was, because he didn't go through it the first time. I don't know. You know, we used the loophole, which there was at the time of, don't try this at home. Okay, I'll try it at school.
Yeah.
I'm not at home. It's like, or, you know, we go into a wooden area where there was a big enough space that you could have a ring sort of, and we'd use the trees to jump off the trees, and we'd wrestle as kids. But predominantly, at some point, someone would be Stone Cold Steve Austin. Someone would do a stunner. Someone would do the head shake. We had no idea what Stone Cold was saying during that period of time. We had no understanding of half the stuff that was going on. But every week we wanted to see Austin McMahon in some way, shape, or form. And that happened, honestly, right up until I was... I mean, I think I would have been 6 or 7 when it happened. I probably wasn't as every day talking about what's Austin going to do until he retired, and I was 14, 15. Like, for a good 10 years of my life, it dominated what was going to happen. Yeah, it was just my lifeblood for so long. And arguably, there's a reason it's number one on a lot of lists for people. There's a reason it was number one on every time WWE mentions a rivalry. It was something that not only helped us still have a WWE, but it set up a foundation for storylines galore in the future.
Of course.
And I can rhyme off some things for you in terms of like what I'm talking about. The first stunner in Madison Square Garden and the fish reaction. The suit where he comes out in a suit with a belt and he takes the photo with the belt with Vince, and Vince thinks he's got the corporate rattlesnake, and you hear JR, Vince McMahon's gonna learn that rattlesnakes don't make good pets.
Yeah.
Because he takes it off and goes, I want you to get that developed, I want you to put it on a frame and get nice, because it is the single last time you will ever see me wear one of these son of a bitches. And then tells Vince to, what I want you to do right now is take a bow and cross chops him. Like, the beer truck in '99, the Austin McMahon friendship that happened in 2001. I need the old Stone Cold, and for a moment you were on Vince's side. Like, the concrete into the Corvette, the Zamboni. For ages, I thought the Zamboni was the coolest piece of technology you could do to ride. Because it could go anywhere, and you could jump off it, and you could beat up Vince McMahon. Yeah. I was almost like the Club with John Cena. All I wanted to do was beat up Vince McMahon. Like, when he gets Big Show to pull the Titantron down and rips it up with this long piece of knife he somehow got. Like, there were so many classic moments. And it was just, like I said, it was my lifeline, it was my lifeblood for so long, that the first time that we mentioned number one, like doing a top 5 of each, I didn't even have to think what my number one was.
Yeah. It
just was. It has to be. Like, it was just that. It is that to me. And I'm sure that a lot of people agree with me, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't agree with me. Some wrestling purists probably... Here's the thing. I couldn't really do the NWA and early WCW because, similar to the Boss, I didn't watch them. I didn't have the access to it, or I didn't watch it at the time. Like, because I'd love to put the Danger Alliance on here, but these were things that not only stuck with me when I watched with them, stuck with me when I watched them retroactively. I still get reactions. Like, it's one of those things. That's why we did this, and why we did have moments. When I first saw the Mega Powers explode, I was all Team March until we started treating Elizabeth bad, and I was like, I kind of want Hogan to win then. Like, begrudgingly wanted Hogan to win. But here's the thing, guys. You can tell us why Boss is wrong for putting a Becky Lynch storyline in there. Because, why not? You guys haven't watched the other episode where he puts her on a Mount Rushmore.
Come at me.
You can tell us your favourite, tell us your least favourite, tell us what you agree on, tell us what you don't in the comments below. Now listen, this has been a long episode, and we thank you for sitting the whole way through if you have, and you've reached this point. It's like a dating profile. If you've reached this point, send me a message. Like, here's the thing, guys. We like doing these conversations. We sometimes get a bit passionate, and we forget how long these conversations actually take. We've got more coming up for you in the next few months, and we hope that you enjoy them as well. But as always,
we enjoy these editorials. These editorials are fun to do. It gives us a chance to just talk wrestling. So we have our quicker videos, but then these are videos you can stick on in the background whilst you're playing your games, doing your work, and just listen to two marks, whatever you want to call us, just talk wrestling.
I will only be a smark if S stands for super.
And without having to fucking review that last episode of Raw or whatever. Yeah. We just talk about the topics we want to talk about.
Exactly. We want to bring some positivity in the world of professional wrestling, because often on the internet, when it comes to wrestling, there's a lot of negativity, and the shining lights of positivity are not there. So we will try and...
Positivity!
We're all about that pop. Now,
Yeah.
when it comes to all that, we promise you there's going to be more to come and everything else. As always,
Yes.
like, comment, and subscribe if you feel it is worth it and you'd like to see more. Comment on, as I said, on what your favourites are, what your least favourites are, what you agree, what you disagree. And if you quite frankly, if you comment something that is directed to us, we're more than likely at this point in time be able to answer to you because we've got the time to do so.
Yeah.
We're not,
Yeah.
some other
we
websites that we
actually
can mention where we can't reply because we haven't got the chance to do so. We haven't got the time.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you guys. We'd love to converse with you about like your opinions as well. But we're not like you can disagree with us, and we're not going to be like, well, you're blocked because you don't agree with our
Yeah.
opinion. It's like if you can disagree with us. Like I'm a contrarian by nature. I tend to disagree with most people. I'm more than prepared for people to disagree with me, but at the same time, it's like we embrace that.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it could be about what do you guys like about the stuff, what the stuff we do, what changes would you like to see us make, stuff like that. One quick message I want to throw out to everybody. I'm trying to keep my eye on them, but you will see some comments where it's some random person posting non-English stuff,
Yep.
followed by a very short hyperlink. It links to like a porn thing. I do try to get them reported and deleted the second I see them. It's been happening over on my other two channels as well.
We do have one on our... We have... I saw one, I didn't know what to do with it, I just left it, so Boss helped
Yeah,
with that.
I've tried reporting it and stuff like that. It doesn't seem to be doing anything, so it just needs to be composed.
Yeah, we'll
it might
sort
be
that
because I'm not very... But if you see them, ignore them.
Yeah.
You know,
Especially if
checked it out in a
it's
safe
for
way.
a hyperlink of a time that the video doesn't actually have
Yeah.
on.
Exactly.
But yeah.
So I checked it out to be safe. Like I did it in a safe way using virtual machine stuff. Just don't click on them. We're dealing with them.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to support us in a financial way, perhaps, why don't you pick up some lovely Men In Armchairs merchandise,
Such as
This is
the Bookmars logo or the Kai's Brew in a Pocket. Now,
Yeah, we've got plenty of more designs as well. Just visit the shop.
that is geekking.redbubble.com, G33K King.redbubble.com.
Bye.
Now,
Ultimately,
on top of that,
comment, subscribe.
yeah, like, comment, subscribe, help us on this way if you want to, if you can. We appreciate anything that we get on there. On top of that as well, above me right now, you'll see Screen Tea. That is a candle and sculpturing services above me, boss, not you. And there is they're cruelty-free, site-based candles and some great art pieces on there. For inquiries or just to follow and see what they've got on there, that is Scream_T_ on Instagram. That is Scream_T_. That's SCREAM_TEA. So it's like a cup of tea, not one of these. _. And as we say, always follow myself at Geekstreams, Stevie3K, STREAMS on Twitter. You can follow Stevie Boss at SteveJones313 everywhere. And there are links to our Twitch pages and everything else. Oh, my Twitch page underneath. There's also links to any Boss's solo page as well underneath as well. Click on them, follow them, do whatever you want to do. But other than that, that has been the storyline special for Total Markout. My name is the Geek King, the Cash Brew. That is Steve Jones 313, Stevie Boss. And for now, for today, and forever, Arcs out. M-I-A